I could drive up and everything's handled, Daddy. You've done enough. The line went dead before I could respond. June 20th marked 8 weeks of this dance. The wedding was supposedly 8 days away. Yet, I still knew nothing concrete. No church name, no ceremony time, no guest list numbers. When I pressed Beverly for details, her voice would get small and evasive. When exactly is the ceremony? I need to get my suit cleaned. We're still finalizing the date. Doug's work schedule is so unpredictable right now, and his mother has been... The line crackled. Sorry, Daddy. Bad connection. I'll call you tomorrow. Tomorrow never came. Heat shimmers danced across my backyard as July settled over Texas like a suffocating blanket. The rope swing Sarah had built for Beverly hung motionless in the still air, its frayed edges a reminder of promises kept and trust freely given. My phone remained stubbornly silent. Harry Jenkins found me on my back porch that Tuesday evening, staring at nothing while ice melted in my sweet tea glass. Wedding stress getting to you, Jesse? I told him about Beverly's big day back in May, proud as any father. Now, the words felt foreign in my mouth. She's been too busy to talk. Haven't heard from her in 2 weeks. Harry's weathered face creased with concern. That normal for brides these days? I wouldn't know. My voice sounded hollow even to myself. Never had a daughter get married before. Maybe you should drive up there. Check on her. The suggestion hung between us like heat lightning on the horizon. Dangerous and inevitable. I'd been thinking the same thing for days, but hadn't wanted to admit it. What kind of father shows up unannounced because his grown daughter won't return his calls? The kind whose life savings disappeared into a black hole of wedding preparations he'd never seen. July 15th arrived with temperatures pushing toward triple digits. I made my final attempt at contact that morning, sitting in my kitchen with the phone pressed against my ear, listening to it ring once, twice, 3 times before Beverly's recorded voice cheerfully invited me to leave a message. This is ridiculous, I said to the machine. Call me back, or I'm coming over. Silence stretched through the afternoon like taffy, broken only by the air conditioner's mechanical whirs. By evening, I checked the phone 3 times to make sure it was working properly. The dial tone mocked me with its steady persistence. Something cold had settled in my stomach over the past week. Not worry anymore, but a growing certainty that my daughter was deliberately avoiding me. 4 days of wrestling with indecision ended Saturday morning when I pulled my truck keys from the hook by the door. July 19th, 9 o'clock sharp, with the sun already promising another scorcher and my resolve finally crystallizing into action. The drive was long, the highway to Dallas carrying me toward answers I might not want to find. As I pulled into Beverly's parking space, I saw her blue Honda, which meant she was home. I turned off the engine and sat for a moment in sudden silence, my heart hammering against my ribs. Apartment 2B sat at the end of a narrow hallway. I knocked firmly twice. A long moment passed before the deadbolt turned. Daddy, what are you doing here? She opened the door, just wide enough to show her face, still in pajama pants and an oversized t-shirt at 10:15 in the morning. Her expression was caught between surprise and something that looked suspiciously like panic. You haven't been answering my calls. I was worried. I've been so busy with... She gestured vaguely behind her. Come in, I guess, but I can't visit long. Doug and I have plans this afternoon. The apartment was smaller than I'd imagined. Open plan with white walls. Wedding cards scattered across the kitchen counter caught my attention immediately, dozens of them, some still sealed. Honey, I need to know about the wedding. I kept my voice gentle, paternal. When exactly is the ceremony? She froze with her back to me, hands gripping the kitchen counter. Why do you need to know? Because I'm your father. Because I gave you $40,000 to make your dream wedding happen. Because I've been patient for 2 months while you've avoided every conversation about details. Daddy, please don't make this harder than it has to be. Something in her tone, resignation mixed with guilt, made my chest tighten. Make what harder? Beverly turned slowly to face me, and I saw tears gathering in her eyes. Not the practice tears from 2 months ago, but something real and devastating. The wedding was 4 days ago. The words hit me like a physical blow. I actually stepped backward, my hand finding the door frame for support while my brain struggled to process what she'd said. That's not funny. It wasn't supposed to be funny. Her voice got smaller with each word. It was just immediate family. Very small ceremony at Doug's parents' church. We decided we wanted something intimate. Immediate family. The phrase echoed in my mind while I stared at this stranger wearing my daughter's face. The man who'd raised her, loved her, and sacrificed his entire life savings for her happiness was apparently unnecessary. You want to see the video? Beverly held out her phone with trembling fingers. We hired a photographer. It was really beautiful. No, the word came out colder than I had intended. My daughter had stolen my money and my dreams, then had the audacity to offer me a recording of what I'd missed. Daddy, please understand. We didn't want a big production. All that stress, all those people to please. This was perfect for us. And where exactly did my $40,000 go, if not toward this perfect intimate wedding? Beverly's face crumpled. We needed it for other things. The apartment deposit, Doug's car payment, some credit card debt. The wedding only cost $3,000. $3,000? I'd given her enough money to buy a car, and she'd spent it paying off mistakes while lying to me about dream venues and crystal chandeliers. You played me. The realization felt like drowning in shallow water. Everything was a lie. The venue, the stress, the desperate phone call. It wasn't personal. It wasn't personal. Those 3 words cut deeper than any intended cruelty could have. My daughter had manipulated me with surgical precision, using my love for her as a weapon, and she couldn't even admit it was deliberate. I shook my head once and turned toward the door. Daddy, please don't leave like this. But I was already walking away, stepping back into the Texas heat that felt cool compared to the burning in my chest. The drive home was a blur of silence and growing, dangerous anger. I remembered Beverly's performance in my living room back in May. Every tear had been calculated, every "I love you" Daddy had come with a hidden price tag. I pulled into my driveway, and through the windshield, my mailbox bulged with accumulated mail. I gathered the pile and headed inside. My kitchen table became a sorting station. Most of it was routine, but one envelope made my blood run cold. First National Bank, Beverly's mortgage company. Urgent payment past due, screamed from the red stamp across the front, dated July 16th, 4 days overdue. The same date, Beverly got married. I tore it open. Payment amount, $1,050. Days overdue. 4. I pulled out the file folder labeled Beverly, House Help, and spread its contents across my desk like evidence in a criminal investigation. 12 months of canceled checks for exactly $1,050. 12 months times $1,050 equals $12,600, plus the $40,000 wedding money. My daughter had cost me $52,600 in 1 year. I remembered the promise I'd made the year before, 6 months of mortgage assistance while she and Doug got established. She'd used my generosity to get me to commit to an ongoing obligation. A month later, on a Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Beverly. Hi, Daddy. Listen, the mortgage is overdue. When will you pay it? Her tone was casual, expectant, as if she were calling to ask about the weather. I took a long, steady breath, the anger having finally settled into a cold, unbreakable resolve. The payment was due on the 15th, sweetheart. That was a week ago. Why didn't you pay it? Well, you usually handle it, she replied, sounding slightly annoyed. Can you just send the wire? We don't want the bank calling us again. No, Beverly, I said. I can't. There was a moment of silence on the line, a sudden, unfamiliar gap in her expectations. What? What do you mean you can't? The payment is late, Daddy. We need that money today. I mean, I can't pay it and I won't pay it. I stopped paying your mortgage on July 19th. The 19th? Why that day? That's the day I drove to Dallas, Beverly. That's the day I found out you'd already had your $3,000 family wedding 4 days earlier, and that the $40,000 of my life savings went to pay off your debts, not a grand view estate ceremony. Her voice went from annoyed to frantic. You can't do this. We'll lose the house. You promised to help. I promised to help my daughter build a life, not fund her lies. I didn't promise to be your personal ATM, Beverly, but the bank will foreclose. You've been paying it for a year. Why stop now? Because you stopped being honest with me a year ago. You stopped being my partner and started treating me like a fool. You stole my money, and you stole the one moment I was supposed to share with you after your mother passed away. Now, you need to be an adult and face the consequences of your choices. Daddy, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I'll pay you back. Just make this one payment. Her begging was desperate, real, and utterly without effect this time. I gave you $52,600, Beverly. You made your choice. The bank needs to hear from you. I hung up the phone. I never heard from her again about the mortgage. I learned that day that the deepest kind of betrayal is not a financial one. It's the moment you realize that the person you gave everything to, the person you loved unconditionally, sees your love only as a resource to be exploited. Now, as a final thought, what do you think would have happened if I had just made that final payment? Every tear had been strategic. Every "I love you" Daddy had come with a hidden price tag. The billboard advertising dream wedding venues. Make your day perfect felt like cosmic mockery as I passed it, going 75 in a 65 zone. My day. Beverly had stolen my day, the moment I'd imagined since she was 8 years old and making me play groom for her dolls in the backyard. The memory tasted bitter now, infected by the knowledge that she'd been learning manipulation tactics even then. Mile marker 67 brought me close enough to Willow Creek to smell familiar things. Cattle ranches, oil refineries, the distinctive scent of home that used to comfort me. Today, it just reminded me of everything I'd been willing to sacrifice for a daughter who saw me as a convenient ATM rather than a father worth including in her life. My hands ached from gripping the steering wheel too tightly, knuckles white against the black plastic. I pulled into my driveway and sat for another moment, engine ticking as it cooled. Through the windshield, my mailbox bulged with accumulated mail I'd been ignoring. The sight of that overflowing mailbox made me straighten my shoulders. Time to stop ignoring reality and start dealing with it. The mailbox key felt unfamiliar in my fingers. Paper spilled out in a cascade of white and colored envelopes. I gathered the pile and headed inside. My kitchen table became a sorting station. Most of it was routine, but one envelope made my blood run cold. First National Bank, Beverly's mortgage company. Urgent payment passed, due, screamed from the red stamp across the front, dated July 16th, yesterday. I tore it open. Account number 478291. Payment amount, $1,050. Due date, July 15th. Days overdue. For the same date Beverly got married. The same amount I'd been sending every month. I pulled out the file folder labeled Beverly, House Help for my home office, and spread its contents across my desk like evidence in a criminal investigation. 12 months of canceled checks. Every one for exactly $1,050. 12 months times $1,050 equals $12,600. Plus the $40,000 wedding money. My daughter had cost me $52,600 in 1 year. The memory came back slowly. August of last year, Beverly arriving at my house with photographs of a starter home. She and Doug just needed 6 months of mortgage assistance while they built up savings and got their feet under them. You'd practically be investing in my future, Daddy. When the house appreciates, you'll have helped build. She had used that temporary request to get me to commit to an ongoing obligation without ever telling me the 6 months were up. I knew with chilling certainty that the desperate call about the $40,000 venue fee was simply a strategic move to access a large lump sum, a distraction to cover the fact that I was already paying her mortgage and she needed more. A month later, on a Friday afternoon, my phone rang. It was Beverly. Hi, Daddy. Listen, the mortgage is overdue. When will you pay it? Her tone was casual, expectant, as if calling to ask about the weather. I took a long, steady breath, the anger having finally settled into a cold, unbreakable resolve. The payment was due on the 15th, sweetheart. That was a week ago. Why didn't you pay it? Well, you usually handle it, she replied, sounding slightly annoyed. Can you just send the wire? We don't want the bank calling us again. My answer turned her world upside down. No, Beverly, I said, my voice low and firm. I can't. There was a moment of silence, a sudden, unfamiliar gap in her expectations. What? What do you mean you can't? The payment is late, Daddy. We need that money today. I mean, I can't pay it and I won't pay it. I stopped paying your mortgage on July 19th. The 19th? Why that day? That's the day I drove to Dallas, Beverly. That's the day I found out you'd already had your $3,000 family wedding 4 days earlier, and that the $40,000 of my life savings went to pay off your debts, not a grand view estate ceremony. Her voice went from annoyed to frantic. You can't do this. We'll lose the house. You promised to help. I promised to help my daughter build a life, not fund her lies. I didn't promise to be your personal ATM. Now, you need to be an adult and face the consequences of your choices. Daddy, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me. I'll pay you back. Just make this one payment. She begged me for forgiveness. I gave you $52,600, Beverly. You made your choice. The bank needs to hear from you. I hung up the phone. I learned that day that the deepest kind of betrayal is not a financial one. It's the moment you realize that the person you gave everything to, the person you loved unconditionally, sees your love only as a resource to be exploited. Now, as a final thought, what do you think would have happened if I had just made that final payment? You'd practically be investing in my future, Daddy. When the house appreciates, you'll have helped build our equity. 6 months had become 12 months. 12 months had become indefinite. And not once had Beverly mentioned stopping the payments or thanked me for the ongoing support. I spread the canceled checks across the desk chronologically, watching the progression of dates like a calendar of exploitation. August, September, October, through Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, through spring, and into summer. Every month, Beverly had accepted my money as if it was her natural due, never acknowledging the sacrifice it represented. While I'd been eating store-brand groceries and wearing the same shirts I'd owned for 5 years, my daughter had been living in a house I was paying for, planning a wedding with money she'd manipulated for me, and treating my love like a renewable resource she could tap whenever convenient. I picked up the bank notice with its bold red, past due stamp and felt something cold and final settle in my chest. Beverly thought I'd just keep paying forever automatically, like some kind of parental trust fund that never required maintenance or gratitude. She was about to learn how wrong she was. Sunday morning arrived with the clarity that sometimes follows emotional devastation. I woke before dawn, mind sharp, and knew exactly what needed to be done. At 8 o'clock sharp, I dialed First National Bank's customer service line. My name is Jesse Collins. I've been making payments on account 4478291 for my daughter, but I'm discontinuing that arrangement immediately. A pause. Keyboard clicking in the background. Mr. Collins, let me pull up that account. Yes, I see you're listed as an authorized payer. Are you requesting removal from the account? Exactly. I want all automatic transfers stopped, and I want my name removed as a responsible party. This arrangement is over. The letter took me 20 minutes to write and rewrite until the language was clear and final. Effective immediately, I am withdrawing all financial support for mortgage account 4478291. I will make no further payments of any kind. The account holders will be notified that they are now solely responsible for payments. I signed it with the same pen I'd used to sign Beverly's checks for 12 months. Back home, I updated my budget for the first time in a year. Without Beverly's mortgage drain, I had an extra $1,050 monthly, nearly $13,000 a year that would stay in my account. The relief was physical. Tension I hadn't realized I'd been carrying drain from my shoulders. My phone started ringing around 10:30. Beverly's number. I looked at the phone, let it ring, and walked to my workshop instead. For the first time in months, I had a morning that belonged entirely to me. 1 month of freedom had transformed my kitchen. August 20th found me halfway through painting the last cabinet when the phone's harsh ring cut through the music. On the fourth ring, curiosity won. "Hello, Daddy. Thank goodness you answered. I've been trying to reach you for days." Beverly's voice hit my ear like fingernails on a chalkboard. The panic was real this time, raw desperation. "I've been busy," I said, my voice level. "What do you need?" "The bank called this morning. They said the mortgage payment is a month overdue. When are you going to pay it?" I set my paintbrush down carefully. "Is that so?" "Daddy, they're talking about foreclosure proceedings. We could lose everything." "When are you going to pay it?" she repeated, her voice climbing toward the hysterical range. "I'm not." The silence stretched. "What do you mean you're not?" "I mean exactly that. I'm not paying it today. I'm not paying it tomorrow. I'm not paying it ever again." "But, Daddy, you always help me. You promised you'd always be there." The manipulation was so naked now, so obvious. "I helped the daughter I thought I had," I said. "That person doesn't exist." Her sobbing started then. "Please, we'll lose everything. The house, our credit, our future." "Then I guess your family will have to Family? We are family. Family doesn't lie about weddings, Beverly. Family doesn't use love as currency. Family doesn't exclude the people who sacrifice for them." "But what are we supposed to do? Doug's still looking for work, and I can barely cover groceries." "What you should have done from the beginning. Figure it out yourselves." "Daddy, please. I don't understand how you can abandon me like this." "Abandon you?" I almost laughed at the irony. "You abandoned me first, at an altar I never got to see, surrounded by family that apparently didn't include the man who raised you." "We're family," she whispered one last time, all fight gone out of her voice. "No," I said. "We're strangers who happen to share DNA." I hung up while she was still crying and stood in my kitchen for a moment, listening to the echo of my own words. If I had made that final payment for her, she would have taken it as validation of her power over me. The cycle of exploitation would have continued indefinitely. She would have learned that no matter the betrayal, no matter the lie, her father's love was a resource that could not be exhausted. By saying no, I forced her to confront the real-world consequences of her dishonesty and financial recklessness. It was the only way to save the remainder of my life savings and, more importantly, my dignity and peace of mind. The radio was still playing some song about standing your ground when the world tries to push you around. I picked up my paintbrush and hummed along, applying another perfect coat to the cabinet that would never again bear the fingerprints of manipulation. The kitchen cabinet gleamed with fresh paint by 4 o'clock, a small masterpiece of careful craftsmanship that belonged entirely to me. Cleaning my brushes became a meditation on completeness. My bank statement lay on the counter, open to reveal a balance of $447 representing the savings I still had. The difference represented more than money. It represented choice, freedom, the revolutionary concept of keeping what I'd earned. I made myself a sandwich with actual deli turkey, the taste of real food, purchased without guilt or calculation, reminded me what normal people took for granted. The afternoon stretched ahead like an invitation. I could plan that fishing trip to Lake Texoma I'd been postponing for over a year. By 5:30, I had a new best model refrigerator delivery scheduled for Friday, a fishing trip planned for the weekend, and a contractor's estimate requested for deck repairs. My calendar, once held hostage by Beverly's crisis, now belonged to me. Grilling a thick-cut steak on the back porch while the sun painted the sky orange felt like luxury beyond description. The sizzle of meat on hot metal sounded like prosperity. Harry appeared at the fence between our yards. "You're looking mighty content over there, Jesse." "Good day for it," I replied, flipping the steak. "Beautiful evening, good food, no complaints." "Haven't seen Beverly's car lately. Wedding preparations keeping her busy?" "Beverly's handling her own affairs these days. I'm focusing on mine. Probably healthy, Harry nodded. Can't live your kids' lives for them forever. Forever. Thank goodness forever had ended when it did. As twilight deepened into evening, a car door slammed somewhere down the street. It was Beverly. At 6:30, she appeared around the corner of my house with Doug trailing behind like an uncomfortable shadow. They approached my back porch where I sat, finishing my coffee, moving with the hesitant steps of people who weren't sure of their welcome. I didn't stand up, didn't invite them to sit. I figured you'd show up eventually, I said. Beverly looked terrible, red-eyed, desperate. Daddy, we need talk. This is serious. Everything's always serious with you, Beverly. That's how I know it usually isn't. She stepped closer. We'll lose the house. Everything we worked for. Everything I worked for, you mean? Doug finally found his voice. Mr. Collins, we really appreciate everything you've done for us, and we understand. Do you? I cut him off. Because that wedding you had without me suggested a complete lack of appreciation. Beverly dropped to her knees in the grass, a gesture so theatrical, it would have been laughable if it weren't so pathetic. Please, Daddy, I'm begging you. We can't survive without your help. Doug knelt beside her. You created a family without me, I said from my elevated position on the porch. Now survive as that family. But you're my father, Beverly's voice cracked. You're supposed to help me. Fathers help daughters. I don't know what you are anymore, but you're not that. Beverly played her final card. What would Mom think of you abandoning me like this? The mention of Sarah, who'd loved Beverly unconditionally, hit exactly the wrong nerve. I stood up for the first time since they'd arrived, feeling steel replace whatever softness might have remained. Your mother would be ashamed of what you became, I stated. She'd be disgusted by how you used love as a weapon and family as a bank account. Beverly fell silent, finally understanding she'd crossed a line that couldn't be uncrossed. $12,600 for your mortgage, $40,000 for your fake wedding emergency, $52. $600 you took from a man who loved you enough to give you everything. My voice carried across the yard like a final judgment. And not once did you think to include me in the life I was financing. Get off my property, I said. Both of you. They rose without protest. The sound of their engine faded into the Texas evening, leaving behind the peace I'd been missing for over a year. Tonight, I'd just enjoy the silence of a man who'd finally learned the difference between being a father and being a fool. The narrator found his freedom and peace by setting a definitive boundary and cutting off financial support. What do you think will be the long-term impact of this moment, of the confrontation, on the back porch, on Beverly and Doug's marriage? If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of the story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the right. Thank you for watching.